Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. Hey, welcome to the Man Cave here at Wistful Vistas in beautiful suburban San Diego, California. Try and say that 3 times and you'll be a pro too. Anyway, we are back in the Man Cave, a little more commodious, a little more spacious this time around because the Phantom is gone, left yesterday. Supposedly going to be delivered within the next few hours to the new owner, who is the absolute perfect person to have this, and he's promised to send along a few photos, perhaps even a short clip of him receiving the machine, and with his permission I'll be sharing it with everybody. But Larry Lightning, the 2021 Tuono Factory, is now a little bit lonely in the garage, so we're going to Heavenly Choir above, key. Because we've been down the road where we don't get instructions. The interesting thing about these instructions, gave me a little bit of a pause, was that it says Aprilia RX 660 for installation. That's not a 660, it's the 1100. Young feller on the phone, and he said, don't worry. He checked with the boss too. He said, don't worry. It fits as long as it's a 21 model. They share the same architecture. Okay, we are going to find out about that this morning. It's supposed to be a piece of cake. Is it a piece of cake? You watch, follow along, and we'll decide. Oh, the hat? Why the hat? Because I could. And it's fun. And this is about fun. Okay, so let's get a little more serious. Let's skip the serious part and get to the installation tidy on a 2021 Aprilia Factory Tuono. Stand by. Oh, what progress we've made. We're already at step 2. I removed the seat. And the first thing we're confronted with is that this from the RS 660 looks absolutely nothing like this on the 1100 series. So I see one big bolt, I guess I'll call it, that's holding this assembly on. So I'm going to grab, it looks like, well, why guess? Let me go grab the rec tool and pull that off and see if it allows us access underneath, because we've got to approach from the top and the bottom to get this tail tidy off. So hello, we're back, and it's 4mm, not too surprising. By the way, I got this hex set from Harbor Freight, and I just want to point out, I wonder if this is going to show up, but you see there's sort of a ball end, and I understand that's an insult in some dialects here, and that gives you some angularity. So if you're looking to get yourself a hex set, try and find one that has that feature. See, I can be a little bit misaligned and still get it going here. And if I need leverage, I can turn it this way. These are very handy. So I'm going to take this off. Comes out, not too far in there. There's a wavy washer in there, a lock washer. So we shall, and this is, looks like the same bolts that hold the seat in place. Let's see if it lifts up. And it does. A little bit of a click in and out. Okay, here's the piece. I'm going to set these two aside. Always, if you can, keep stuff sort of with what you've removed. Here, I put the bolt back in there. I'm going to turn around away from the camera, put that on the floor, and what do I see when I look down inside here? I see a very crowded, small space, actually. Here's our charging lead for the lithium battery that I discovered was a part of this overall assembly. There are 2 nuts down in the bottom here, and boy, aren't those hidden. Yes, indeed, they are hidden. So they are attached to 2 bolts from the bottom. And are those bolts 4 millimeter? Let me tell you in just a second. Yes, they are. They are 4 millimeter. There's a third. Is there a third? Oh boy, there is a third way up inside of that back tail there. So what I see here is the potential, very real and very present, of dropping those things right down into the guts of the motorcycle. Now this is the rear wiring harness, and it's put on a little rubber isolating mount, and it should be easy to just prise that off. Be careful, by the way. Okay. Yeah, okay. And that comes off, and we can sort of rotate that out of the way. That gives us a little clearer picture. We got this guy right here. That gives us a little clearer picture at those bolts. Okay, so that's very, very nice. I just don't see the wires connecting that. Oh yeah, now I see them way down in there. Okay, this is this wire right here is probably to connect the troubleshooting system to the bike when you take it in for diagnostics, and this will easily come apart and give me access to way down inside. Okay, there's just some depth in here to try to get to. I'm going to try to give you a shot of what I'm looking at, but we'll come right back. So I've switched over to GoPro, the GoPro for this segment, and I want to just show you how the working environment is in here. That right down there, I can't point it out, but that right down there that I'm pointing at, that's the nut that backs up the bolt coming through. And there's one on this side too. There it is down in there. Those are guaranteed to fall off. So I did check them. They are magnetic. They're guaranteed to fall off. So if they do, I think I'll be able to retrieve them. But I'm going to try to hang on to them, of course. However, they are retrievable. So those are the next 2 items to come out here. Stand by. So ladies and gentlemen, I've got the first of 3 out from here. You've got to, they're easily disconnected, but you've got to disconnect all of the connectors at the back here, including a couple that look redundant to me. I'm not too sure, but I just don't know how to film this, video this, so that you can see what it is that I'm doing here. So I'm setting a 10 millimeter on top of the nut there. I'm going to try and capture it with my hand. Then I'm using the 4 millimeter Allen on the bottom side, and I'm going to grab that and get that started. They're not in very tight, which is not doesn't make me all that much of a happy camper, but I'm gonna say I'm hoping this is gonna turn out, because the thing that I'm thinking about right now is how I'm gonna get it back in there. It's one thing to take it out, it's another thing to get it out. Okay, there's the second. Now let's see if I can retrieve this nut without losing it. Mama. Got it. There it is. And kind of interestingly, these are nylocks. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera or not. They're nylocks, but the bolts are, if they're into the locking portion, it's not by much. So the bolts are a little bit on the short side. I'd like to find some longer ones, and I think it'll make it easier to reassemble them. So I've got the two back ones off. Now the next one, there's three. The next one up under here, by the way, I'm just using the GoPro with its internal mic. The next one, those two are out. The next one is a Torx that's hidden way up inside here. Now feel sorry for me because I don't have a bike lift. I gotta find that guy. Where are you? I don't think I'm going to bore you with this on camera, but it's probably about probably about 2.5 inches recessed. It attaches here. I can see where it's drilled and tapped right there. And I believe that one, I was told, is a Torx wrench. I am not sure. I have no way to see that thing. Boy, ain't it fun? So I'm going to grab that one from the bottom. I'm going to have to shine some light up from the bottom, which would be directly into the camera. So I'm going to do that off screen, I think. Unfortunately, I'd love to show you all, but it's comes right through here from the bottom. It's put in there, and yeah, I got to find a way to grab it from the other side. So don't go away. We'll be back. So I've got to say, again, using the internal mic. Sorry, here it's hard to see. I've got to say that was a real challenge. It's a Torx 25. It comes from under the bottom here, and you've literally got to reach up, and just by feel, I could not. Maybe with a bike lift, you could get underneath there and grab that out, but I could not do that. I had to. Now let's see if we can get this thing to let go here. Got to fish out the. Here it comes, I think. Got to be careful not to damage the OEM wiring harness, because who knows if all this is going to work. Ta-da! You have no idea. I've got to tell you. Here's the little guy that was such an issue for me, and if I turn it over, I'm not sure you're going to see up inside there, but that's where the fun began, back up in there. So now what I've got to do is disassemble this piece. First of all, I'm going to do a rough fitting of the other one on there and see if it lines up. But we're not out of the woods yet, because I'm not sure that this is going to fit. So I'm going to set this down here. I had my hat off there so I could look in there. I can see daylight. I'm not too sure I'm supposed to be, but I can see daylight. I had to put a light under there. So now I'm going to grab the piece from Okay, you win some and you lose some. This definitely goes into the loss column. It's not a fault necessarily of the supplier. I aborted the process of putting on the tail tidy and reinstalled the OEM factory. Why? I didn't like the way the new tail tidy was going. So I'm going to delete a mention to them. If you send me a note, it would take a longer, I'll answer it. But the fact is, I just didn't like the way that it was going in and the way that it was looking on the install. Didn't care for it, and there were things you had to do to install it that meant it was a one-way trip. That is, once it's on, that's the one that's on, more or less. I mean, you could splice some other wires in there. So it's not their fault necessarily. It's not their fault at all. It would have worked. It would have worked. But I decided that I just didn't like it for the one that I wanted to put on and keep on my own particular motorcycle. So your opinion may vary, but in that case, really can't blame the supplier. It's a matter of my choice there. So tell me what you would do in that circumstance, by the way. And by the way, while we're talking on the installation subject, the overall installation subject, the space at the back of the machine to remove and install the tail tidy, well, nowadays it's very easy. It's all clip-on connectors and things like that to the turn signals and to the inner electronics. It's a very, very small space, very small space, sorry. And my hands are not large. I don't know how somebody with larger hands would get in and do it. I think if you were a microsurgeon, it might help in doing that. But it's very tight, very small, and getting at some of those bolts that are holding the electronics on is a bit of a challenge. And I was worried, as I mentioned, that I'd drop one down in there, but didn't do it. And I did check beforehand that they were magnetic, because you want to do that so you can fish them out if you absolutely have to. Having said that, I'm going to wait till a better option comes along. And at one stage, I'll talk about why I made that choice. But I put the tail tidy back on. Let's close up here. Let me grab you by the scruff of the neck. Oh, I hope you don't get a headache from this. I'll cut that part out. And we're using the built-in GoPro microphone now. But I put the tail tidy back on, and I put the stock tail assembly back on, the stock lights, tail lights back on. So that's the way I'm going to ride it for a while until a better option comes along. A better option to my tastes. The fact of the matter is, getting at the electrical components way down inside here. This comes off, by the way, but getting at them, disconnecting them, getting the nuts and bolts from the underside. I'm not sure that that's going to come out, but I'm going to attempt it anyhow. As I say, it's just, you got to take your time. I've said that many times, but it's pretty tight spacing. Having said that, I'll leave you at that stage, and hey, sometimes you got to know when to hold them, and you got to know when to fold them. Ride safe out there. A little frustration in the man cave today.